But not everyone is pleased about the choice or the selection process. And tomorrow, a London justice is set to return with a sentencing decision in a Nathaniel Veltman trial. We have a tee-up tonight. Plus, we have rare footage of an auction that sold several Boblo Island carousel horses in our latest Rose City Rewind episode. Kingsville's new school officially has a new name. Erie Migration Academy was approved by the Public School Board last night, but the decision isn't sitting well with some. The CBC's Dawson Chen explains.
What's in a name? Quite a lot when it comes to Kingsville's major new public school set to open this fall. Built with a grant of almost $60 million.
Sorry about that. We had a misfiring of a commercial. We want you to see this story again to get the full scope of it. Kingsville's new school officially has a new name. Erie Migration Academy was approved by the Public School Board last night, but the decision isn't sitting well with some. The CBC's Dawson Chen explains.
What's in a name? Quite a lot when it comes to Kingsville's major new public school set to open this fall. Built with a grant of almost $60 million, the expansive site is expected to serve more than 1,700 students from kindergarten to grade 12. And for generations to come, it will be known as Erie Migration Academy. as decided by the Greater Essex County District School Board at a meeting on Tuesday.
Erie Migration Academy. And I'd like to give some rationale since all the rationale wasn't provided. So we all come from somewhere and have made this home as Indigenous or settled people. And I think migration honors that whole thing, ecologically and as humans.
But the school name has immediately encountered controversy. Tuesday's meeting was the first time Burgess suggested the name, despite her chairing the naming committee. The name was not one of the two options decided by the 24-member committee, nor was it on the short list. Yet the board approved the name by a vote of 6-2. Some Kingsville residents have taken to social media to express their displeasure with the name and the process by which it was chosen.
She goes to the meeting, she brings up a whole new idea that wasn't even talked about. And then she pulls out saying, well, migration was liked, Erie was liked. Well, that's not the point. It didn't seem very professional, not really laying out the rules and sticking with it from the beginning. It doesn't sound like a school to me. I mean, it sounds like a bird observatory.
Kingsville resident Brandon Tagert's grade 6 daughter sat on the naming committee. He says Burgess amended the name at yesterday's meeting without giving any consideration to the two options that were chosen by the committee.
So that whole committee spent hours, right? All of those students, including my daughter, put in that time, advocated for herself in front of her principal. She's a grade 6 too. We were very impressed by this. And they did all that research. They spent time in those meetings. They worked together as one unit and came up with these final two names to be completely disregarded in the end.
Burgess declined to be interviewed by CBC Windsor about the issue. The Greater Essex County District School Board announced the name officially on Wednesday, describing the words Erie and migration as popular suggestions among the 600 name submissions. At Tuesday's meeting, Burgess anticipated there would be backlash.
I'll be truthful. I think there are effigies being made and burning by tomorrow. I think it's going to be highly contentious, and I think that people are going to say things. I hope everybody embraces it. So thanks for your comments.
Erie Migration Academy is expected to welcome its first students in September. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Tomorrow, the country will be watching a London courtroom closely as a judge is set to rule whether Nathaniel Veltman is a terrorist. This past November, the 23-year-old was convicted of 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Back in 2021, he drove into a family who was out on a walk in London. He later told police he did it because he wanted to send a message to Muslims. With that significant, potentially precedent-setting ruling coming down tomorrow, we wanted to connect with CBC's Kate Dubinsky, who has been covering the trial. Kate, thanks for joining us tonight. Can you remind us of the key facts of this case that will factor into the judge's decision tomorrow as to whether Veltman is a terrorist?
That's right. Yeah. So the jury has already found him guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. That's because 4 family members died and a young boy was left orphaned and severely injured. So he's already been found guilty. What now has to happen is the judge will take everything that the Crown presented, everything that the defense presented, and she will figure out what the facts of the case are and whether or not he is a terrorist. Now, terrorism in Canada is defined as an act that was done for a political, religious, or ideological purpose and with the intention to intimidate the public or a segment of the public. So she's going to look at whether or not that is what he intended to do.
The Crown had argued it would be hard to imagine a stronger case for terrorism than this one, while the defense had argued Veltman was not motivated by a particular ideology. Can you flesh out the two sides of the argument here?
Yeah, so the Crown really said, you know, this is a guy who was online for months ahead of the crime. He took time to construct a manifesto, which the police found on several devices. It was called A White Awakening. It was written sort of in the vein of other white supremacist terrorists who had gone out and committed murderous rampages. He told the police, I did it. I did it because I wanted to send a message, and I wanted to drive Muslims out of Canada and to send a message to Muslims across the world. The defense said that this was a young man who was who had suffered from mental health issues, who had a very difficult childhood, who sort of was super isolated during the pandemic and fell down this rabbit hole of white supremacy and far right stuff online, and that he didn't have really a political ideology. He just sort of was mimicking what he had seen online. So two very, very different approaches to this really serious crime.
And Kate, really quickly here, if applied, how would the terrorist label impact Veltman's punishment?
Yeah, so it actually wouldn't impact his sentence. He is, because he was convicted of first-degree murder, that is an automatic life sentence with no chance of parole for 25 years. We know that that is what he will get. However, if he's labeled a terrorist, it could affect what programs he gets in prison, and it could also affect, 25, 30, 40 years down the line when he's applying for parole, what the parole eligibility will be. So it's sort of it's a bit of a sentence into the future.
Well, thanks so much for that, Kate. That is the CBC's Kate Dubinsky in our London bureau covering the Veltman terrorism decision coming down tomorrow.
Thank you.
Leamington is seeing a spike in improper garbage disposal. Officials in the town say some residents are putting out their bins days in advance of the scheduled pickup, and that's causing problems. We checked in with the municipality's bylaw enforcement manager about why people should wait to take out the trash.
We received several calls about garbage blowing around subdivisions, unsightly conditions in the uptowns. Through council's direction, we've deployed bylaw officers starting early in the morning to go and proactively look for these issues. We're just asking residents just to keep things nice and clean and tidy in Leamington. We just want to reduce the time garbage is put out, but we're finding garbage being put out not on the proper day, several days ahead of their garbage pickup. The longer the garbage is set out there without it being picked up is the opportunity for things to happen. Pests get in it. When it becomes, an issue like that, we really want to get the word out.
3 people have been charged after a man was found beaten and unconscious in a ditch along the EC Row Expressway. Police say last week they were called to Windsor Regional Hospital after a passing driver found the man. He was admitted with serious injuries. The man has since been identified, police say, but he remains in the hospital. Police say an investigation showed before the man was left in the ditch, he was allegedly assaulted with a blunt object on McKay Avenue. 2 men and 1 woman were charged with varying counts of kidnapping, forcible confinement, aggravated assault, and breaking and entering. Police are asking anyone with information to contact the Major Crimes Unit or Crime Stoppers. Last week, CBC learned that former president of the South Asian Centre of Windsor was charged with defrauding the organization, accused of stealing more than $300,000. CBC has learned that he will plead not guilty. Laura Joy, the lawyer representing 81-year-old Sushil Jain, says she believes in her client's innocence and has no further comment. Windsor police arrested Jain last week and charged him with defrauding the South Asian Centre of Windsor over a 12-year period. Police say their investigation shows that more than $360,000 intended for the charity were deposited into Jane's personal bank accounts. He has been charged with fraud over $5,000, laundering the proceeds of crime and possession of property obtained by crime. The allegations have not yet been tested in court. Starting in September, the provincial government will introduce mandatory Black history learning into the curriculum. Students in grades 7 and 8 will learn about pre-Confederation history, and grade 10 students will learn specifically about Black Canadians post-Second World War. CBC Morning host Amy Dodge spoke with a curriculum consultant for the Windsor Essex Catholic School Board.
So there has always been opportunities to incorporate Black history and perspectives in the curriculum. It's just that they've only been as suggested topics. So, for example, students in grade 7 and 8 and grade 10 history learn about interactions between different communities. They learn about some of the challenges that communities may have faced. So now that will be a mandatory expectation. So up until this time, it was up to educators to incorporate those topics and those resources.
At Queen's Park, there's growing calls to tackle workplace abuse by municipal politicians. Opposition parties support bringing forward new legislation. The government voted down a proposal to bring in a law last year. Lorenda Redekop has the latest.
The group The Women of Ontario Say No took their fight to Queen's Park.
We should not need to be here. The premise is simple. You should go to work and you should not be subject to abuse.
She says it doesn't make sense that municipal politicians who abuse someone at work can lose 90 days' pay, but there's no process to remove them from their job or prevent their re-election.
If you're fired from a meatpacking plant for harassment, you don't just get rehired. It's the same concept.
Incomprehensible.
Liberal MPP Stephen Blais has tried twice to change this. His first bill died when the last election was called. The government voted down his second version. He has a personal reason for this fight. He's a former Ottawa City Councillor. Another councillor at the time, Rick Shirelli, faced accusations of abuse by female staffers, backed up by 2 Integrity Commissioner reports and resulting in the councillor's pay being docked, though Shirelli repeatedly denied it.
He was harassing and abusing his staff. He was asking women to come to work without a bra. He was suggesting they go to strip clubs to watch his political opponents, and unfortunately, he's not alone.
He says there have been stories of workplace abuse by politicians in cities and towns across the province. All 3 opposition parties support this.
They had a chance to do the right thing last year, and we're calling on the government to do the right thing this year.
The NDP want any rules to go beyond municipalities. The party kicked out its former MPP Michael Mantha after it investigated abuse allegations. He disagreed with the findings and is now an independent.
I would like to see stronger legislation and rules to protect people at all levels of government, as I said, absolutely.
The Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing says the government is working on legislation.
I'm going to do something about it. I want to make sure that what we do bring forward is constitutional. It is a very important piece of legislation.
Advocates want something in place before summer. Asked whether he thinks that's possible, Minister Calandra said he doesn't see why not, though the government won't give a definite commitment on timing. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
For decades, Steve Dagla and his partner Suzanne Konya have been designing and creating props for stage productions in Windsor. Tonight, we introduce you to their latest creation. The production, called Into the Woods, will feature their daughter as one of the lead characters, alongside puppet Milky Way.
This is a musical called Into the Woods. It's a bunch of fairy tales, and all the fairy tale characters meet in the woods, and they all have a wish, and they all go through their journeys together. And the cow, Milky White, is a part of this journey.
The head is actually paper mache over a wire structure. So there's a lot of building. I had photos and a video to work from, and trying to capture a certain character with the cow. And then, of course, the body is corrugated cardboard, and the legs are like chicken wire. It had to be light because she is being carried around throughout the musical.
When you see the end result and you see it on stage, what do you think?
Magic. No, it is. It's amazing what happens when you walk in a theater and things start happening and you get sucked into the magic, I guess is a good word.
Can't wait to see when Milky Way is animated on stage.
For nearly 100 years, Boblo Island was a popular summer destination for both Windsorites and Detroiters. One of the most beloved attractions, the carousel, with 44 beautiful horses crafted by famous Coney Island-based designers. This next Rose City Rewind segment is from 1990, when the park's shifting owners decided to controversially auction the carousel off. This report done by former CBC Windsor reporter Margaret O'Sullivan.
Up for sale today, one of 4 surviving carousels carved by M.C. Illions around the turn of the century. The buyers came from near. Edsel Ford Jr. of the Ford Motor Company. He bought 2 horses. And they came from far, this California couple. They weren't all Americans. a buyer from London, Ontario paid $22,000 for a pony. These are serious collectors, anxious to own a piece of an Ilyen's carousel.
I have 9 pieces now, and I'd like to get a couple more.
Ilyen's immigrated from Russia in the 1890s. He set up shop on Coney Island and made a name for himself.
They're some of the most creative and imaginative and animated, and I think he was really a genius.
But not everyone was there to buy. Some came for one last look at an object of childhood fantasies.
I feel like a princess.
There was a hope a single buyer would purchase the whole carousel and keep it together.
Unless someone comes with some magic between now and the end of the auction, it's the end of our dreams.
It didn't happen. The carousel was sold piecemeal for close to $1 million. Today, people said goodbye to their dreams and the horses who rode together for 84 years on Boblo Island in the Detroit River. Margaret O'Sullivan, CBC News, Dearborn, Michigan.
Well, I don't know how you're feeling, but this weather is certainly starting to mess with me. I feel like I need to start my spring cleaning despite being in the middle of February. Victor Paulo joins us now to share with us what else we have in the forecast.
Well, Meg, 13 degrees today was one of the highs we've been looking forward to all season long, especially with the lower temperatures we've been receiving. And this 13-degree day was accompanied with some sunshine as well. But when we're looking ahead at our Thursday, you're going to need your rain jacket and your rain boots, especially an umbrella, because it's going to be a wet one in store. We also have a cold Friday night coming ahead. I know we're just talking about this warm day today, but we do have a cold Friday night into your Saturday morning. And taking a bit of a look ahead of the weekend, it's going to be a clear weekend, a night where if you love to stargaze, take a look at some stars. And if you love clear skies during the daytime to get that sun come down on you, well, it's going to be able to take advantage of that as well. But here's your average high for the Windsor region for today's date, -6.3, and your average low, well, got to switch that one up. Now taking a look at our rain totals for the next couple of days between now and around 3 p.m. We're expecting around 8 millimeters to fall in the Windsor region for the majority of your Thursday, similar to Kingston, who's receiving 8, but of course little Toronto in the middle, 1 millimeter. Well, it seems like we're going to be getting the better grasp by the times it comes to golf season because they're getting all the moisture needed. Now, quick look at the long-range forecast. Quick story we want to tell when it comes to the weather we're going to be receiving on your Saturday. It's going to be one of the colder parts as the northern Arctic air mass works its way down, and we're going to be receiving colder temperatures when it comes to your Saturday morning into your Friday night. And as you get later on into the weekend, well, we can see that the colder temperatures will eventually be leaving us, and we'll be getting back to double digits in the middle of next week, as you do see here. Now, a quick look at what's happening when it comes to our weather for tonight. It's going to be 4 degrees, feeling like 2, and if you look behind me, it's going to be partly cloudy. Well, much more cloud cover than we're used to, but we're taking a bit of a head as what's going to be happening. Looking for bird's eye view, well, here's what we're looking at. We're looking at it's going to be mainly cloudy. Your overnight is going to be just a touch of rain, and then when the time you get into your Thursday morning properly, it's going to be a wet one in the Windsor region. And by the time you reach your commute home, everything should be all said and done. The 8 millimeters would have came and it would have gone. And a quick look at your 3 and 7 day forecast. Well, we see it's going to be a rainy Thursday, but we do see that it will be getting quite cold for Friday. But your Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, temperatures do get warmer with a little bit of precipitation coming towards the end of the week. Stay dry, Windsor, and over to you, Meg.
Thanks so much for that, Victor. A piece of Lego is going for more than $11,000 at auction. We tell you why it's so expensive coming up. We're learning more today about some of the world's most iconic whale species and about how humans are affecting the way these gentle giants communicate. CBC's Anand Ram has more.
The siren song of a humpback whale. But these marine mammals also sing a different tune.
It makes a Harley Davidson sound like a child's toy.
These low-frequency sounds are the focus of new research in the journal Nature. Using vocal organs from dead baleen whales like humpbacks, they pumped air through them and discovered that these whales rotated their organs to vibrate an inner cushion, all to communicate danger, food sources, and for mating.
If you're in a very crowded bar and you need to sing to find your mate, and everybody else is making all this noise, you won't be able to find your mate.
In other words, when you sound like an engine, real engine noise is disruptive. And the new research says diving down deeper won't help. Because of how compressed air gets down there, the whales physically struggle to make these sounds. So to vocalize like this, they have to do it closer to the surface.
And that's exactly where we make boating noise, in exactly the same frequency range and also on the surface.
This noise pollution affects all marine mammals, and in Canada some solutions have been to move or slow down ships.
And all of these things generate noise.
But this advocate says there's even more to be done.
Really the biggest thing that industry and governments can do is to facilitate movement towards more quieter technologies.
So that when these giants sing their songs in the dark, they can find each other and thrive. Anand Ram, CBC News, Toronto.
It's estimated that more than 1 trillion Lego pieces have been made since the colorful plastic bricks went into production in 1947. Now, a very rare exotic piece has turned up at a thrift store warehouse in Pennsylvania.
There's 30 of the gold ones. They do make some silver ones and some plutonium ones.
This piece, known as a Bionicle Lego mask, was found in a donation of jewelry. It's one of only 30 made and uses 14-karat gold. Originally, the exotic metal pieces were given to Lego employees as gifts or used as prizes in contests. This one is up for auction. Bidding is currently more than $11,000 US. The thrift store Goodwill says $5,000 would have been a record-setting sale price. A giant panda cub in China has been dazzling spectators with its gymnastic skills. Workers at the conservation facility kept a close eye on the aspiring athlete as it moved along a high wooden beam using only its arms. Impressed visitors recorded the bear's every move. The cub was born last year at Research Center in southwestern China. The facility is known for protecting and breeding giant pandas, red pandas, and other endangered animals. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.